In this video, we're going to look at interval notation. And in inequality notation, if we had x is less than a, we would graph it by putting an open circle on a. And we're putting an open circle on a because a is not included in the solution set. And in interval notation, you always put a parenthesis on infinity and negative infinity. So we're going from negative infinity to a, and because we're not including a, we're putting parentheses. For the inequality notation, x is greater than or equal to b. In graph notation, we put a solid dot on b because we're including it. In interval notation, we have a bracket around b because we're including it. So in 1, they want us to express the inequality x is greater than or equal to -2 in the following notations. In a, they want us to express it in graph notation. And because we're including -2, we're going to put a solid dot on -2, and then we'll shade or draw a line. In this case, I'm going to use the highlighter, and we would shade or highlight everything greater than -2. For set notation, we would have x if x is greater than or equal to -2. For interval notation, we would have a bracket for -2 because we're including it, to infinity, and infinity always gets parentheses. In 2, it says express the set x if x is less than 0 in the following notations. In graph notation, we would put an open circle at 0 because we're not including it, and then we would shade everything less than 0. For interval notation, we would have negative infinity and parentheses at the negative infinity, and 0 would have parentheses as well because we're not including it. In 3, we want to express the inequality -3 is less than or equal to x is less than 5 in the following notations. For graph notation, we would put a closed circle at -3 because we're including it, and we would put an open circle at 5 because we're not including it, and then we would shade everything in between. And then in interval notation, we would have a bracket at -3 because we're including it, and then a 5, and then parentheses because we're not including 5. And that's our video on interval notation.